There's a staircase in your life that you hate. Maybe it's at work. Maybe it's in your apartment building. 3 flights of stairs, and by the top, you're breathing hard. Now, imagine this. Your ancestor, 50,000 years ago, walked 20 miles before breakfast. Not on a treadmill, not for exercise, because if they didn't, they starved. You get winded walking to your car. They cross continents on foot. What happened? And more importantly, how did they actually do it? Because the story you learned in school left out the best parts. The parts about belief, about connection, about doing impossible things for reasons that had nothing to do with survival. So let's talk about how ancient humans really traveled the world.
Here's the first problem humans had to solve: distance. You can only walk so far before your body gives up. 20 miles in a day if you're strong, maybe 25 if you push it. Then you need food, water, sleep, then you do it again. For most of human history, that was the speed limit, 4 miles an hour, walking pace. And your body is still built for it. You've got arches in your feet that act like springs, an Achilles tendon that stores energy with every step, a ligament running up the back of your neck that keeps your head stable while everything underneath you moves. You're not built to be fast. You're built to never stop. But here's what doesn't get talked about enough. Ancient humans weren't just wandering randomly, hoping to stumble into food. They were traveling with purpose. Archaeologists have found obsidian tools hundreds of miles from the nearest volcano, shells discovered far inland, amber traded across mountain ranges. Someone walked to that volcano on purpose, brought the obsidian back, traded it to someone else who carried it another 100 miles. This wasn't survival, this was networking on foot. And sometimes they were carrying something even more precious. In New Mexico, there's a set of fossilized footprints archaeologists call the ghost tracks. They're 23,000 years old. And here's the strange part. You can only see them when it rains. The ground has to be damp for the tracks to appear, then they fade again as it dries. Like the earth only wants to tell this story sometimes. One set of tracks belongs to a woman, and you can tell she's carrying a toddler. How? Because the child's footprints disappear for long stretches, then reappear, and the woman's prints get noticeably deeper and wider under the extra weight. Like she kept shifting the kid from one hip to the other, put them down to rest, pick them back up. She was crossing an entire continent, barefoot, carrying her future with her. And she had help. In Italy, archaeologists uncovered a 10,000-year-old burial of an infant they named Neve. She died young, but she was buried wearing shell beads. When researchers examined them, they found wear patterns far older than her short life could explain. The beads had been handled and worn for years before she ever touched them. The likely explanation? She was carried in a sling, decorated with those beads, an heirloom passed down through the women in her family, worn smooth by mothers who came before her. It's such a small thing, a baby sling, but it might be one of the most important travel technologies humans ever invented, because it's the difference between a species that can only move as fast as its slowest member and a species that can carry its future wherever it goes. Walking solved distance, but it created another problem. You can walk across a desert, you can walk over a mountain, but a river stops you cold. For hundreds of thousands of years, water was a wall. You either found the shallow crossing or turned around. And then someone figured out something no other land animal has: how to cross water on purpose. We know that's because of an island called Flores in Indonesia. Archaeologists found stone tools there dating back 800,000 years. Here's the problem. Flores was never connected to the mainland. Even during the Ice Age, when sea levels dropped, there was always at least 12 miles of open ocean between the island and the nearest land, which means someone made the crossing. We don't know what they used. Wood rots, bamboo disappears, whatever they floated on is long gone. But the tools are still there, so the crossing happened. The first boats were probably accidents: a fallen log, a bundle of reeds tied together. Someone grabbed a floating log to cross a stream and didn't drown. That was the breakthrough. But what happened next was deliberate. Thousands of years later, humans started crossing oceans, not rivers. Oceans. The Polynesians built double-hulled canoes and sailed across the Pacific, the largest body of water on Earth. Some of those voyages covered over 2,500 miles of open water.
No compass, no map.
They read the stars, the direction of ocean swells, the way birds flew, the color of clouds near land. And they used something else, something almost nobody talks about. It's called telapa, a strange phenomenon sometimes described as underwater lightning or phosphorescence that appears to flash from the direction of land. Navigators would lie down in the bottom of their canoes and physically feel how the ocean swells changed as they reflected off islands still up to 100 miles away. They weren't just looking for land, they were feeling it through their own bodies, using the ocean itself as an instrument. And we know it worked because of something even stranger. The Polynesian word for sweet potato is kumala. In Quechua, the language of the Andes in South America, the word is kumara. Those words are almost identical, and sweet potatoes are native to the Americas, not the Pacific. Genetic evidence backs up what those words are quietly telling us. Polynesian voyagers reached South America, encountered the sweet potato, and carried it back across the Pacific with them, centuries before Columbus was even born. Somewhere in the middle of the largest ocean on Earth, Polynesian sailors had already been to the Americas, met people, took a vegetable home with them, and folded the word for it directly into their own language. That's not a legend, that's a word, sitting in two completely different languages, thousands of miles apart, refusing to be a coincidence. Boats conquered water, but they created a new question. Why?
Not all ancient travel was about survival. Sometimes it was about something else entirely, something we still don't fully understand. At the center of Stonehenge sits a 6-ton slab called the altar stone. For a long time, researchers assumed it came from somewhere nearby. New mineral analysis proved that assumption completely wrong. That stone was transported over 450 miles, from the far north of Scotland all the way down to southern England, around 2600 BC. Think about the logistics. No wheels that could handle that terrain reliably, no engines, no trucks, just an enormous, coordinated effort, probably combining overland transport and water routes, moving a 6-ton rock the length of the country. For a monument, we still don't know why they thought it was worth it, but somebody organized an entire transport network across ancient Britain just to get one specific rock to one specific place. People weren't only traveling to survive. Sometimes they were traveling because a destination genuinely mattered to them, and sometimes the road itself just disappears. Underneath the North Sea, between modern Britain and mainland Europe, sits a sunken country archaeologists call Doggerland. It wasn't some barren strip of mud connecting two landmasses. Researchers pulled DNA from the seabed, showing it was full of oak, elm, and hazel trees. It supported boars, deer, bears, and wild cattle. It was a real landscape. Thriving, resource-rich, the kind of place people didn't just cross, they lived in. Somewhere between 7,000 and 6,000 years ago, rising seas swallowed it completely. Fishermen in the North Sea still occasionally drag up stone tools in their nets, pulled from a country that's been sitting at the bottom of the ocean for thousands of years. One of the most important travel corridors in early European history is now 100 meters underwater, and the only reason we know it existed at all is because it keeps showing up, piece by piece, in fishing nets. So here's the whole picture. For 300,000 years, humans walked. They crossed deserts and mountains and continents on nothing but their own 2 feet. They hit water and figured out how to float, then how to sail, then how to read the ocean with their bodies and cross distances that should have been impossible. They learned to carry their children in slings so they could keep moving. They built networks that stretched hundreds of miles. They moved 6-ton stones for reasons we still can't explain. Every one of those breakthroughs was built on top of what came before it, solving problems that seemed impossible to anyone who came earlier. Now, you sit in a chair, someone hands you pretzels, you fly 3,000 miles in 6 hours and complain the Wi-Fi is slow. You drive 2 minutes to avoid walking 3 blocks. You get winded going up 3 flights of stairs. Your ancestors walked 20 miles a day carrying everything they owned and everyone they loved. They didn't do it just to survive. They did it to connect, to trade, to reach places that mattered to them, to see what was on the other side of the horizon. And here's the thing, those footprints in New Mexico, They fade when the ground dries, like the earth only wants to tell the story sometimes. But the story is always there, just waiting for the right conditions to appear again. Just like the instinct to move, it's in you, buried under convenience and comfort and 3 flights of stairs that leave you breathless. But it's still there. You just have to let it surface.